This past week, we lost Jamie Muir, a Scottish painter and musician, at the age of 82. Muir was an unusual figure, even in the 1970s. He's best known for his brief stint in King Crimson from 1972 to 1973. That's how I'm familiar with him. Born in November 1942, Jamie Muir got his start as a professional musician playing jazz trombone in the 1960s. Later, he moved into percussion, with a particular interest in using found objects and exploring the colors of sound. He became involved in free improvisation and was a member of the Music Improvisation Company, a group that released an album of free jazz on ECM Records in 1970. It's, well, about what you'd expect. I heard it for the first time in preparing this video. I would have loved it in college. That background led to Robert Fripp inviting him to join a reformed King Crimson lineup in 1972. Even though he only appeared on one album, 1973's Larks Tongues and Aspic, it was arguably the most important record in the band's entire catalog, and Jamie Muir had an outsized influence on the band's new direction. Jamie's musical influence in 1973 extended beyond King Crimson. Bill Bruford, the former Yes drummer, who had also just joined King Crimson, invited both Jamie and Yes singer John Anderson to his wedding. In conversation at the wedding, Jamie encouraged John to read the book that would inspire the next Yes album, the epic and controversial Tales from Topographic Oceans. Jamie Muir's work with King Crimson was mysterious and important, as were his reasons for abruptly leaving the band, just after Larks Tongues and Aspic was released and before the band was about to start a major tour. Although he denied initial reports that he quit after being injured on stage, he was vague about his actual motivations, only citing a series of events involving the band's management. After his brief time with King Crimson, Jamie Muir returned to Scotland and spent several years at a Buddhist monastery. He returned to music in the 1980s, but eventually retired permanently to focus on painting. He died in Cornwall on February 17, 2025. Every time I hear that we've lost another musician I admire, I try to record a cover song in tribute to their work. Larks Tongues and Aspic is a challenge, to say the least. One day in 2020, during the COVID shutdown, after realizing there were only a couple of old and inaccurate ones circulating online, I decided to create my own transcription of John Wetton's bass part for Larks Tongues and Aspic Part 2, link in the description below. Now, I could have tried recording that, although honestly there are a couple of tricky bits I can't play up to tempo, and I couldn't even touch most of the other instruments' parts. Maybe it's no surprise then that I went for the talking drum, the easiest track on the album. It's a group improv that grows steadily from Jamie Muir's buzzing bee sound effects to a full band roar, ending with a screeching segue into Larks Tongues and Aspic Part 2. Unlike most other songs I've featured, I've actually recorded this song twice in the past. I did my own solo version back when I was still recording directly to a cassette boombox in high school. That tape is sadly lost, or maybe not so sadly. I also recorded a version in college with my friend Mark that we called the Talking Drill because, well, you can probably guess why. Surface level, Talking Drum is just a modal jam. But what mode is it? I decided to try to figure it out. Keyboard at the ready, I plunked along with the different instruments to figure out the notes they're playing. First the bass, because it's the most clear-cut and repetitive part. It mainly alternates between A and E flat, a tritone. Periodically, Wetton punctuates the end of a phrase with an E, serving as a cadence and definitively establishing A as the root. The bass pattern also includes a lot of chromatic movement up to those notes, so the bass is mostly just playing the notes A, D, E flat, and G sharp. Second, I turned to the violin. The most distinctive thing I'm hearing is more chromatic movement. There are a lot of B flats, so my first thought was, oh, it's Phrygian mode. And it certainly has that quality, with the minor 2 and minor 3, but of course the tritone and the major 7 don't belong in Phrygian. So that just leaves the guitar. Here Fripp is mostly playing in Neapolitan minor, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, G sharp. But there are some extra chromatics thrown in, namely the major 3 and the tritone. Hoping to find an analysis online, I stumbled upon jazzshelf.org. The article there mentions, the improv mode for violin and guitar has been noted by Fripp biographer Eric Tam as A, A sharp, C, C sharp, D sharp, E, F, G sharp. I have to disagree with this assessment because I distinctly hear a lot of D naturals coming from both of those instruments, probably more D naturals than D sharps. I think the only notes that are completely avoided here are F sharp, G, and B. The important thing to remember is that this piece was born out of a group improvisation. I think the most they might have agreed on in advance was to play an A. They were just listening intently to each other, and they homed in on this set of notes because it was the sound they were chasing. There are no chords to speak of here, essentially just three intertwining single-note lines. David Cross and Robert Fripp take turns providing sinister drones under each other's solos, before coming together in a combined flurry as the jam reaches its apex. Meanwhile, John Wetton and Bill Bruford keep a driving rhythm in the bass and drums, and Jamie Muir adds color over the top with his percussion and all sorts. Yet, even without Jamie Muir's unique presence, the band continued to perform the talking drum live as a prelude to Larks Tongues and Aspic Part 2, as on the album, usually with even greater intensity than the original studio recording. Many of those performances are available on the Great Deceiver box set and countless live recordings that can be downloaded at dgmlive.com. Okay, now let's see what I can do with it. Rather than attempting a straight cover that mimics the original instrumentation, I'm taking the key elements and putting my own twist on them. I'm relying heavily on the soundscapes and sonic manipulations that are possible with the Alchemy synthesizer built into Logic, to take the place of Jamie Muir's All Sorts, as well as for the lead solo. Oh, and I finally took the time to learn how to map control surfaces in Logic, so I was able to manipulate the Alchemy morphing tools using the sliders on my Arturia Minilab 3. Surprise, it's much easier than I expected. Here we go. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and consider joining my Patreon, link in the description.